Talk more about everything that's going on with someone who knows. Senator John McCAIN, Republican, who represents the state of Arizona, of course. Also a veteran, as we know, and the author of 13 Soldiers, a personal history of Americans at war. First of all, Senator, thank you for joining us.
Thank you
for your service.
Good to be back.
To you and your family.
Thank
you for being with us.
Thank all our veterans today. And by the way, it's wonderful the way Americans honor our veterans all over America today. And it's really heartwarming, and it means a lot to our veterans. Now we need to fix our health care system.
That's right. Got to fix the veterans' health care system, and we have to make sure we're not putting them in harm's way unnecessarily, which takes us to the war. We're going to talk about the book. I have 2 copies of it. I want them signed. I will sell at least one on eBay. I'm sure you're comfortable with that.
Absolutely.
Depending on the interview, we'll raise the price, so let's all do our best here.
I'm sure that the success or failure will depend on the next few minutes.
I don't need any more pressure on me than I have right now, Senator. When we look at the war situation, we're hearing about the new phase, and we'll talk about what that means in terms of congressional approval. But when you're looking at what's going on over there, is this going in a direction early on, in your opinion, that it needs to be?
I don't think so. In fact, I know so. This sort of gradual increase in involvement that we're going through reminds me of another war a long time ago in the Vietnam, when we just gradually increased our involvement. The object of warfare is to defeat the enemy, and the president has said our goal is to degrade and defeat ISIS. I don't see right now a strategy that would achieve the goal that the president said, and so we need more trainers, we need more forward air controllers, we need more special forces, and we have to understand that ISIS covers both Syria and Iraq, and to have one war in one part of that caliphate that they've established and another kind of strategy in the other one, it just doesn't work. And of course, we see on the front page of the New York Times this morning the radical elements in Egypt have now aligned themselves with ISIS. ISIS is winning, at least in the eyes of young radicals all over the Middle East.
Well, look, there's no question that the solution extends far beyond the military, right?
Sure.
You need these regimes to be able to do what they need for their own people, to suppress ideas of extremism. We have to deal with the political situation, the coalition, what's going on in Iraq. But this is a military phase right now.
Yes.
And it is clear that what's going on the ground is inadequate in terms of overtaking the enemy. And now we have these U.S. troops. They're being put, you know Anbar Province very well. You know it is one of the last places you want to be on Earth. What is your concern about what the U.S. involvement will ultimately be, no matter what we say the mission is?
Well, I think if we develop a strategy that is aimed at achieving that goal, and that may mean additional American troops, not the 82nd Airborne, not the kind before, but trainers and forward air controllers and other kinds of capabilities that can turn this tide. And there's a number of other things. For example, let's give military assistance direct to the Kurds rather than have it go through Baghdad, which is obviously not good. Let's insist that the Iraqi government, this new government, really be responsive to the people, to be a legitimate government that the Iraqi people, all of them, Kurds, Shiite and Sunni, can support. So there's a political element, but most of all, let's develop a strategy. What is needed in order to defeat these people militarily, along with the rest of the other aspects of victory? And frankly, we just see this announcement after announcement, including the fact that the president for a long time was the first thing he would say is what we won't do.
I know you've criticized that roundly, that you don't say what you're not going to do, you say what you do, and it's not just a semantical difference. One thing he did.
We said we're going to do bombing, and we waited a week.
Right.
We waited a week. And now many of those shots you saw on CNN of buildings being hit, those buildings were empty.
Because of the
because
lag
we'd
time.
warned them ahead of time. Now they're like cockroaches when the light goes on. They go into the population.
One other thing I want to address in that situation, then I want to get to the book, is one of the things the president did do is he reached out to Iran through its holy leader. You are well outspoken in your feelings about Iran and that they are not our friend. And even though they may be the enemy of the enemy right now, they're still not our friend. But you know they're fighting against ISIS already. You know that Iran's influence on Iraq is undeniable. Do you hurt the goal by excluding them?
I think, Chris, it's immoral to tell 5,000 young Syrians that we're going to train them in Saudi Arabia and send them back into Syria to fight, and their enemy is Bashar Assad and ISIS, and we're going to allow Bashar Assad to barrel bomb them. Why not give them a no-fly zone if you're really serious? Is it really moral to say we're going to send you back in, but we're not going to protect you? And now when the United States strikes ISIS, Bashar Assad increases his attacks on the Free Syrian Army, which is being decimated. That's not moral. You can't do that to people.
Right, but isn't that just one more reason to have as big a tent as possible? And can't that include bringing Iran in?
The Iranians support Hamas. The Iranians are the ones that sent in the Hezbollah. They're the ones that have sent in arms and equipment, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They're the ones who are have destabilized Yemen. The Iranians have ambitions which cannot coincide with ours.
All right.
So it's an alliance that just won't work, Chris. It won't work.
Understood.
Yep.
But we're going to have to find some different solutions, and that's why we'll keep the conversation
Exactly.
going. Veterans Day, obviously the timing, very appropriate for 13 soldiers. 13 refers to 13 different conflicts, wars that you pointed out. Obviously there are more, but you thought that these were instructive. And a lot of time in who you chose to talk about and why. Not all amazing acts of valor in here. No. What do you want people to get from the book, Senator? You're not in here, by the way. No. You may have written it, but you're not in here. You're not one of the 13. I'm
not in that category. It doesn't take a lot of talent to get shot down, you know. I have... Mark Salter and I, who were very close friends for many, many years and worked together, have picked out 13 individuals. Some of them a bit of a scoundrels, a couple of brave American women, a couple of African Americans that fought and, frankly, were not rewarded by their country. They should have been for their service. So that each individual, Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was a Brahmin and fought in the Civil War and forever changed. So we tried to put the context of the war and then find one individual who really epitomized that conflict in many aspects. And I think we were able to put a personal stamp on many of these conflicts, and hopefully we can appreciate the fact that ordinary Americans, from one of our first young man joined at age 15 in the Revolutionary Army, literally almost starved to death. And then, of course, we had a woman medic who ran right into the fight after an IED. By the way, I hope putting to rest this issue of whether women can serve in combat or not. And so we tried to describe these people in a way that helped you in the context of the conflict, but also appreciate what really, only in America could you find 13 people like that.
I had my life basically saved by a woman in combat, so you don't have to sell me on that proposition. Very interesting profiles of people in here that do wind up representing what it takes to fight in different situations over time. Mark Salter, his dad's in here. My one problem with the book, no John McCain reference after so much honorable duty. But I'll leave that to those who read the book for themselves. I'm not going to jaundice their opinion. Senator John McCain, always a pleasure to get your perspective on New Day. Appreciate it.
Thank you.